Hello and welcome to Pragmatic Tracker. My name is Bill Andrews, Director of Many Other Limited, the company behind the development of Pragmatic Tracker, and I'm a practicing therapist, human givens therapist. I'm a supervisor and a trainer with the International Centre for Clinical Excellence on the integration of feedback into treatment. So we're looking at the argument for the introduction of Pragmatic Tracker within the IICP Education and Training Programme in Dublin. And I've been on your website and I'm very pleased to see that Mick Cooper is coming over to visit you on Saturday the 7th of March. I'm working very closely with Mick at Roehampton University on the integration of Pragmatic Tracker into their training program there for work with the students, and he's very, very pleased with how Pragmatic Tracker can work very, very well for them. So that work is in progress at the moment. Mick, I'm sure, will be very happy to endorse hopefully both me and the work that we're hoping to be doing with Pragmatic Tracker with him. So I suppose I've been thinking about, well, what are the key questions for IICP as an organization? And first one is Pragmatic Tracker right for your organization? Next one, I guess, is can you afford it now? And can you afford it on an ongoing basis? And what might the alternatives be? And then I suppose my last question is, well, can you afford not to have Pragmatic Tracker actually? So I guess a useful way to think about this is in terms of the client journey. So the client is journeying through your training program, and that journey goes from point of referral to completion. And I guess what perhaps Pragmatic Tracker is helping with is offering a multiple of perspectives on that client journey. And with the hope that key questions that need to be answered can be answered through the information gathered within Pragmatic Tracker and the reports that come from Pragmatic Tracker. But then I've also been thinking about this, that within your organization you also have the trainee journey, if you like, the student that is coming in and going on that gradual program of training and exiting and becoming a graduate and then retaining links back to your training organization as time progresses. And as you will see over time, as you become familiar with Pragmatic Tracker, there is great potential in there to assist in the reflection of that trainee journey as well through the process from graduation to completion, and then from completion to follow-up as well. And again, key questions that may need to be answered and how Pragmatic Tracker can help with that. So thinking about the stakeholders, well, clients, I guess, are our very obvious first stakeholder, and then we've got the students working with the clients, the administrators involved in taking care of that, the administration of that client journey, managers, supervisors, graduates, directors of your organization, funders of your organization, marketing teams, and academics who are producing academic papers on research coming from your organization. So these are some of, I'm sure not an exhaustive list, but some of the obvious stakeholders. So thinking about these in turn, well, from the client's perspective then, what does Pragmatic Tracker bring to the table? Well, it brings the ability to monitor progress over time throughout treatment. Now, I appreciate that currently, if my understanding is correct, you're using core measures at beginning and end of treatment. But of course, there is the ability to use measures as frequently as one wishes, down to every session or every alternate session, whatever one wants to do. And this, of course, helps to monitor progress through treatment. It also, the collaborative work with the practitioner helps the client to identify, well, what's working well here or what isn't working well. And I know Mick Cooper's presentations will be a lot about the identification of that and that reflective practice for practitioner and client to think about, well, what ingredients in here are actually helping to bring about change or not. So it's an encouragement of the reflective process, the engagement in treatment, and the ability for the client to offer feedback to the practitioner about the work that they're actually doing with them. And of course, what's really important about this is that we absolutely now know with certainty, with many randomized clinical trials, of the overwhelming evidence base for working in this manner. And of course, this goes to substantiate the training with IICP, and the fact of working in this outcome-informed manner does indeed have an evidence base. For the client, it allows their voice to be heard. And a unique feature actually of Pragmatic Tracker is the ability to track the problems from the client's own words, so you can monitor change in the problems they've actually come to attend treatment for. So from the student's perspective then, well, there's a simple login to a restricted area that just demonstrates their own cases. There is the ability to read messages that are being sent to them internally within the system from administrators or supervisors or others with permission to do so. It's very simple system. We find the feedback from therapists generally excellent. They just find it very simple, very obvious, very intuitive, and with an abundance of help. Every point that you enter data into Pragmatic Tracker has a little help button which you can click on, which tells you exactly what the purpose of that entry field is. That's the detailed down in the trenches help, if you like. And then there's also help at a higher level by clicking on the help menu on any page you're on at any particular point in time. It takes you to a separate, very well populated help website that explains exactly what you're looking at with training videos, etc., etc. So there's really an abundance of help. The student can capture notes and key information about the session, and measures and forms can be built and designed by IICP to reflect precisely the way that students are being trained to obtain the correct sort of information. For example, the therapist's assessment of how that particular session has gone, reflective notes, etc., which can become integrated as a part of the training program. Again, this is something I think you'll find Mick Cooper will be talking a lot about in his session with you. With measures, the ability to add the data from measures in a variety of ways. If it's using paper with the client, that's fine. If it's using direct electronic entry, email, electronic links, etc., etc., all of these features are available. I mentioned earlier about capturing key problem information, which we believe is a unique feature of the software, to allow one to, if you like, build a bespoke measure client by client of their actual problems, and tracking change on that in parallel perhaps with the change on core measures, for example, or any other measures that might be used. By the way, the number of measures available to put into Pragmatic Tracker is limited only by copyright restriction, and so any measures that are in the public domain can be incorporated. You can build your own new measures, you can experiment. There's an enormous amount of flexibility. And of course, the client's progress can be tracked through treatment. Other aspects for the student then is the system is basically very easy to use, and it's easy to monitor one's own caseload and to identify what's working well and what isn't, which is encouraging reflective practice, and of course is supported by an overwhelming evidence base. And the flexibility allows information to be captured in many varieties of ways, which of course also means that in a student environment, one now has an excellent research tool for projects, for experiments, for analyzing data in varieties of ways, etc. From the admin side, well, it's really important, and we've always felt it's extremely important, that this process is very easy. So the admin login has got to be very simple. You go in, you can add a new client to the database. So at point of contact, let's say a telephone point of contact, key pieces of information can be captured and entered in the client profile. And we have a very flexible profile so that when we build a spec to any particular service or organization, we get knowledge about those key elements that you definitely want to capture, and then we configure the client profile in such a way to make sure that you're getting the information you want. A question arose, for example, during the week about, can we find a way to capture whether clients make a contribution to the cost of their treatment, and how would that be done? And that's very, very straightforward for us to do. From an admin point of view, it's very easy to see the clients who are waiting. So they've been accepted by IICP, but they haven't yet been allocated to a particular practitioner or student. And it's very easy to see and organize the list in such a way that it becomes obvious who those people actually are, how many of them there are, etc. And it's very easy to see when next appointments are due, as long as they're entered properly into the system. And then that means it's easy to see how long people are waiting, etc. And I just see I have a typo here. There's an internal messaging system to communicate with the students. And of course, it's very easy to export reports to Excel. And we can help you over time to build the reports that you actually want as well. Okay, so from a supervisor's point of view, well, a supervisor, let's say, who's taking care of a particular group of students and their clients, maybe they have 10 or 12 or however many students in their group. Well, that group can be organized in effect as what we would call a practice. It's just a name that puts a particular group of students with their clients together, and the supervisor can then have access to that team, if you like. And so the supervisor can message people within that team easily. So when they log on, they get the message from the supervisor. The supervisor can drill down into all those individual cases, can work with the student to develop a shared understanding of the client perspective and the work that the student's doing with that particular client. And it's easy to just see at a glance what's going on, and then once again to report through Excel on that particular subset. In a very similar way, it works for managers, again with particular sets of students or clients, and that ability to drill down in a similar manner, really. Permission structure would probably be the same for managers as it is for supervisors, who probably are often one and the same anyway. An interesting thing to think about is the graduate. So you've got somebody who's graduating from your program but wants to stay linked in. And we can come with an arrangement for you so that if you want to keep your graduates and they're happy to continue to use Pragmatic Tracker to monitor their work on an ongoing basis, then I'm sure we can arrange to do that for you. And of course, that helps to continue to develop the evidence base. I mean, the other alternative to that is to develop a separate instance that's for graduates to monitor the ongoing effectiveness of the work of graduates of the IICP, to continue to gather that evidence base in a practice research network, if you like. And of course, the benefits are there for those graduates of bringing the cases to supervision, etc., and maintaining the link back to your training organization. So what do the directors get out of this? Well, they get what I would describe as the 10,000-foot overview of what's going on. So at the director level, or what we would call super user, one can see everything that's happening. How many students, how many clients are being treated in this given period of time? How many are in active treatment? How many cases have been closed? How many cases have dropped out of treatment? How many cases are progressing well in treatment? Etc., etc., etc. So it's a very good overview of everything that's going on. And of course, when you have that key information available and you can see flashpoints, you can see traffic jams, bottlenecks, etc., you can begin to then make decisions about, well, where do we tweak our training? Where are the problems arising, etc.? What are the nature of the problems of the clients that we're generally treating in any case? Have we a way of monitoring that and observing it? So, and once again, the ease of extraction to report through Excel on whatever basis might be required. And of course, then allows you to have the ability to demonstrate the return on investment to funders, who are the next crowd. And because you will have high quality data, at the end of the day, the better the quality of the data that you have, the easier it is to demonstrate that return on investment to the funders and make the case for hopefully not just a continuation of funding, but for an increase in funding. Similarly, as part of the process, and I obviously realize there'll be enormous overlap in roles between supervisors, managers, marketing people, etc. But it's having that ability to transparently evidence what's happening within your organization, to demonstrate change, to demonstrate the quality of the work you're doing with your clients, and to track the progress of your organization and thus increase the profiling of it. Now, for academics, for researchers, here you have with Pragmatic Tracker an excellent tool. It's flexible by design, it has many creative features, it fosters autonomy in the research process and allows you to showcase the work of the IICP. Well, the key benefits, I mean, for us, what was critical is that Pragmatic Tracker must be easy to use for all concerned, and that the design is intuitive, that it's staring you in the face really what to do next, that there's little room for ambiguity or confusion, that's very flexible, and of course it has to be very economical. So organizations, and particularly in the world of mental health that are always Cinderella services struggling for funding, it has to be economical, but it has to make the economic argument as well. It has to support the organization in its bid for at least maintenance of funding and hopefully an increase in funding. So it's got to assist in that progress and process. And of course, we as I've said earlier on, we've extensive support built in. That extensive support, of course, goes well beyond just what's available in the software in terms of written or video already. Because with us, with myself and Tony Jordan, you've got two guys who have extensive experience in the integration of working with outcome measures and feedback into practice, into training organizations. We're very well acquainted with the evidence base, and as I say, I'm a trainer with the International Center for Clinical Excellence and a very close associate of Scott Miller's in America. So we have a lot of knowledge about this field, this area, and so I think with us you're getting far more than just a software program. You're getting a software program designed by clinicians, for students, for researchers, with an awareness of those features that are so important in order to carry out one's business, if you like. We believe that Pragmatic Tracker does the job you want it to do. It aids accountability, supports supervision, provides that high-level overview, which is evidence-based. But you know, I suppose I wanted, through this presentation, I wanted to take that stand back to think about, well, what are all of these different features? Now, rather than me demonstrating all of these, I know several of you have had the ability to go in already at our demo site and at clients, get a feel for the intuitive nature of the program. The website, pragmatictracker.com, has a lot of information on it that demonstrates all of these important features in great depth. And of course, people can sign up for free trials for single users. Now, bear in mind that this Pragmatic Tracker site is a single user access point, which is very different than what you're needing within an organization. But it allows you to go in as in effect an individual practitioner, or in your case a student, to see what it's like to add clients, etc. Within the system. So I didn't want to put time into this presentation on actually demonstrating all of those individual features, because it's very, very easy for you to do so. And I guess for your board, you can perhaps get that feedback now from those within the organization who've already developed that familiarity with the system. And you can see within the system, you know, that ability to use endless different measures and to integrate them from paper into Pragmatic Tracker. is there, and the chart systems and new features we've now added as well, like the ability on the chart display to turn on and off tables which drop down all of the answers to the questions and domains within the answer sets, etc. So I guess this is my attempt at offering some summary about Pragmatic Tracker. Is it right for your organization? Well, certainly from the discussions I've had with David O'Regan and other colleagues, it sounds like it's right for you. Can you afford it? Well, I have to say we've offered you a deal which I hope you will realize is extremely attractive. And we realize the position you're in with your ongoing issues around funding, but we hope that the level of the price point is such that you will be able to have confidence in it. And what we said is we will stick to those discounts. We're very generous discounts we're offering just for commitment beyond the first year as well. What are the alternatives? Well, to be quite honest, with my hand on my heart, I don't think there's an alternative that does the specifics of what Pragmatic Tracker has to offer. Yes, there are different alternatives that are probably overkill for what you don't need to have and are under-resourced for what you do need to have. And I suppose, so I would ask you the question, well, really, can you afford not to have Pragmatic Tracker? Because I just am very, very confident that it will give you both in itself as a software and with the links with us as consultancy service to you that you can use as much or as little of as a resource as you choose. It will give you what I believe you need to have. So I hope that's helped to provide an overview, and of course I'll always be very happy to answer any questions or follow-up information or anything that might be required, and I hope you enjoy your discussions about Pragmatic Tracker. Thank you very much indeed.